Welcome to the final cut. Okay, no, I'm not going to do Ricardo Montalban's voice. Definitely could not mimic it and even do justice to it, because the only person that can do justice to Ricardo Montalban's voice is, well, Ricardo Montalban. Welcome to the final cut, folks. Mark the Movie Man here. Thank you so much for joining me as we take a look at another new release horror film that has come out this weekend. It's Blumhouse's take on Fantasy Island. Yes, we get a horror upgrade to the classic 70s TV show concept, where we get a group of individuals who are flown out to a mysterious magical island where your fantasies can become reality. Yes, you can choose a fantasy and they will make it happen. But as Mr. Rourke warns his guests, your fantasies don't exactly play out like you expect them to, and that is definitely true here on Fantasy Island, as we see the dark secrets of the island are slowly revealed, and this group of individuals end up getting the fantasies, maybe not the ones that they were hoping for, but the ones they deserve. What's interesting about this film is that in its spirit, it has the same spirit as the original TV show. Now, I remember watching it when I was younger, and I didn't quite get all the concepts. Some of those flew over my head. I mean, shit, I was like, I was very young at the time when I was watching it. But I did enjoy the quirkiness and the surrealness of it. It did have this fanciful feel to their stories. Nothing extremely horror, much like this movie has, but it still was dramatic and had those elements. And so the film does capture that essence of the 70s TV show, and I appreciate that quite a bit. That quirky oddness, the intense scenes that you have in here, and the way some things are set up, plus the darker tone. The film really is lending itself to be a horror film, but it is PG-13, and you can tell, and it does have that going for it as well, which is going to pull in a lot of more people on its opening weekend for sure. But for me, the story and the way some of these scenes played out, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more edgier, more intense scenes with a bit more of an R feel, because it is a dark story. Now, everybody involved, I think, in here does well. I mean, we have Lucy Hale in here, who we saw in Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, and in this one, I think she does a better job, and I really enjoyed her character, Melanie. The other young cast they have in here do really well. It was great to see Maggie Q on screen. Always love her performances, and she really helps ground this film quite a bit and brings some weight to the performances on screen. And Michael Pena in a more dramatic role, showing that he can carry that dramatic role as well as he does comedy, and it was really fun to see him in a different type of film than we're used to seeing him in. And of course, Michael does great there, and Michael Rooker shows up, and it's always a good time when Michael Rooker shows up. And in fact, most of this film is a good time. I enjoyed it quite a bit, more so the first 2/3 of the film than the last third, because as more of the story is revealed, the more you end up scratching your head, because they start to play out these rules of the island, but they seem to play these rules hard and fast and loose, very loose, and kind of make it up as they go along, it felt like, in many places. So, I wish they would have held a little bit more to that, because as they tried to give you twists, those twists end up putting holes in the story of what had come before it, if that makes any sense. And so I just kind of wish they had tightened that up a bit. They didn't need as many twists as they throw in here, especially the big reveal at the end. We get one reveal, and I'm like, okay, I like where this is going. And then they do another one, and you're like, wait, huh? And so by the end of it, you get a film that definitely feels like a setup for another Fantasy Island film if this does well at the box office, which it just might, given the crowd that was waiting outside the door when we got out of the first showing here tonight. But for me, it was just not quite there. It was definitely better than Truth or Dare, that's for sure, and I enjoyed it a lot more, but it's really a film you don't want to try to think too far on, or really far at all, because you're really going to start going, wait a minute. So, yeah, there is a fun energy to it, and not a lot goes with their characters, which are very tropish. So, in the end, I could only give this 2 3/4 stubs. I will say wait for an early matinee show, or maybe $5 Tuesday. You don't need to see this necessarily on the big screen either. You can wait for rental because nothing in the cinematography really lends itself to being a spectacle on the big screen. They do work within a smaller budget, and I appreciate that too. But in the end, yeah, it just wasn't quite up there with the 3 stubs. Couldn't quite give it that. It was about the same as the pretzel bites I had, which had a lot of cheese with them though, so they may be a little bit better than the film, but they're on par. So yeah, folks, middle of the road film. If you have seen Fantasy Island, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Blumhouse's take of the 70s TV show. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And also check out our Patreon. We got a lot of great stuff there and more stuff coming. I thank you for your support. And until next time, remember, keep that ticket stub.